Welcome to our Operation Greatness Year of Greatness Chapter 6 podcast. This is our chapter meeting for you being part of my Operation Greatness chapter, as well as leading your own through operationgreatness.com/leader. My name is Dan Klatt. I am the author of Reignited America. And this is, in a way, a very special Operation Greatness podcast because I am doing this podcast as part of my interview with Authority Magazine, where I was asked to compile the top 5 things each of us can do to help solve the loneliness epidemic among our young people. So, as part of our podcast, I am answering that question. I am giving my thoughts on the top 5 actions every one of us can take, and I suggest we are required to take. So I want you to think more expansively, like, what are your answers to the 5 things we must do to end this epidemic of loneliness among yourself, among your friends, and especially among our children? Okay, so this is the heart of the issue, and that heart is how disconnected we were. We don't want to empower something that does not serve us at all and never has. And the question was the question I was asked to answer, what are the 5 ways we can end this epidemic of loneliness, was even in the context of we're more connected than we ever were, quote unquote connected. And yet, why do we feel so isolated, alone, disconnected? Okay. So I want all of us to talk about this because to me, this is the issue. I mean, you know that old saying, united we stand, divided we fall. Are we united or are we divided? Are we together? Are we cohesive? Are we connected or are we isolated, alone, small, shrinking, feeling like we don't matter? I mean, I'm asking you to post about each of these questions, your thoughts about them, and in your post, link back to this podcast because this is the conversation every one of us must have. And this is how we are ending the epidemic of loneliness, by coming together and by stopping it, by reconnecting, by stepping back, reconnecting with life. Anyway, so this is so huge. So please take this to heart, post about this, and then link back to this video or this show, our podcast here, and get all your friends answering this question, talking about it, and taking these 5 actions. So, the top 5 actions we can take to end and must take to end the epidemic of loneliness. Number 5 is, and by the way, to step back from even number 5, imperative in all of this is you embracing and mastering your role as caretaker, leader, inspiration, role model, mentor, and example of your children. So I want you to really hear this and act upon it, seize the day, honor, fulfill, achieve your duty, your responsibility as the inspired visionary leader of your children. That's paramount within all of this. In other words, how can you expect your children to be connected to life if you are disconnected from life? And if you're not doing the work yourself, then why would your children care to do the work themselves? I mean, yes, you can provide a contrast, and yet this is your responsibility. You becoming the best version of yourself is your responsibility. You raising your children to know how to not only just survive, how to thrive, how to become their greatest versions of themselves. And what does that mean? That means them contributing more meaningfully and in being of greater service, fulfilling their divine design, duty, destiny, dharma. And your fundamental role as part of all of this is to make sure that your children know how to create anything they want as they are living their greatest success, happiness, joy, fulfillment, well being, peace of mind, prosperity, meaning, contribution, impact as they choose. They can create any level of wealth, prosperity, meaning, purpose as they so desire. That's your fundamental duty as their parent to make sure they know how to do that. And what's paramount within that, what's assumed, you know how to do that yourself, and you're living that fulfillment yourself. So we're having this conversation not just to save our young people, we're having this for us all to step up and no longer shrink, hold back, live in fear, play small, limit ourselves in any way. No, that's all gone. That's in the past. We're no longer doing that. We're no longer holding back, limiting ourselves, or playing small. We're stepping up and we are becoming great. This is your primary responsibility to yourself, first and foremost, as well as to your children. So, number 5 of the 5 actions we must take to end the epidemic of loneliness is for your children to be that inspired visionary leader they are destined to be. That requires you being that inspired visionary leader yourself because you are leading by example. You're really hearing this, right? I can sense that. I know you know this is required of you. You're not helping anyone, you're not serving anyone by limiting yourself in any way, by playing small, by settling, by living or accepting mediocrity. No, you're here to be the example. You're here to be the best parent you can be, and that's by thriving yourself, being lavishly abundant, being the exemplary provider, living this stuff yourself, being your best version of you, because your children are watching what you're doing yourself more than they are hearing what you are telling them to do. You're walking the walk. You're living this yourself. So here's a suggestion for you. Work with your children in something that you are doing together where you're both passionate about the need for what you are creating together. For example, I'm suggesting that the best way for you to lead by example and bring them in to find the best within themselves is for you as a family to lead your Operation Greatness chapter. This is all through operationgreatness.com/leader. Okay, so, and I'm suggesting that you even have your children lead their own chapters because then it's like them taking ownership of this and them becoming that inspired visionary leader it is their destiny to be. So start with your family chapter, have your children learn the system, share the posts on their social media. You're getting all the posts you need to transform the lives of everyone connected with you on all your social media as part of leading your own chapter. So go through this as a family, like, and what is the main thing missing in our lives today, especially our families and the family life? What is that? You know the answer immediately, right? It's sitting down together as a family and learning about your children's lives, what they value, their friends, who do they, who their love interest is, who their friend, what's happening with their friends' lives, what are they learning in school, what are their activities, interests, hobbies, passions, what are their gifts, what are their fears, what's happening, what's on their mind, what's keeping them up at night. For you to keep track of what's happening in their lives and give them that leadership, support, example, coaching, mentoring, guidance, inspiration, right? So, absolutely bring your family together and have dinner together. Make that priority. I mean, that's kind of an obvious thing, and yet it's easy to let that slide because of, whatever, social media, activities, homework. Are you, when you're at home, that doesn't mean you're not necessarily leaving work behind. Anyway, this is your family time. Your family is the most important thing that you have, right? Besides your relationship with yourself, your relationship with God, your love life. I mean, mom, dad, and children, let's call it. And because we're real, and we're strengthening the family because that's the building block of society. And because we became weak as society largely as a result of the family disintegrating. So you're reuniting, reintegrating your family. You're bringing your family together. And I don't care if everybody's going to be like, oh, I don't want that. I'm busy. I have my network of disconnected friends. So what? No, this is your family. This is what counts. This is your requirement for your family. And they might begrudgingly like, okay, I'm going to cross my arms and pretend I'm doing this in objection. I'm objecting to this, but I'm sitting here, but I'm not really present. And I can't wait for this to be over, this punishment to be over. And yet, so they're kind of like that, what do they say? It takes like an oil tanker, maybe 10 miles to turn 4 degrees or whatever. Okay, so your children might be that stubborn, that objecting or resisting this, and yet when you show genuine interest in them, when your phone is away, when you're off your dumbing device, and you're present and you're pressing them, you're not just saying, what did you learn in school today? Oh, nothing. What are you covering in history class? Oh, we're talking about the whole, whatever thing, the Constitution or you know, anyway, whatever it is. Well, okay, what do you think about that? What is your homework tonight? Oh, I have to write a paper on Ulysses S. Grant. Okay, well, what did you learn about him so far? Oh, whatever. And I mean, you're delving into this, right? You're showing interest in them, and they might just begrudgingly answer and give only like 3 or 4 word sentences, but then you go deeper because you want to know what your children are learning. Is it appropriate or is it indoctrination? Is it showing them how to make decisions on their own, think critically on their own, be responsible, contributing, thoughtful members of society. And if not, then what do you need to supplement their school education with, such as being an entrepreneur, teaching them leadership, inspiring them, showing them how to believe in themselves and know how much they matter and that they honestly, genuinely, authentically have the power to create anything they desire. So, and then so maybe you're sitting together over dinner for an hour, and then the next hour is you're doing your chapter work, leading, inspiring, transforming, and liberating everyone connected with you. You're leading by example and you're showing them that this matters and you're getting them involved in your family business, which you are seeing as a 7-figure family business. And they're taking ownership of it. And from the money they are making with your family chapter, they are leading their own chapter. And that's when their creativity shines, their self expression, and they're taking ownership of it. They're taking responsibility for it. And this is by far, I think you get the sense, it's probably blatantly obvious. This, your family chapter, and then them leading their own chapter, that's the greatest, most important education you are providing them. Because then they're seeing, wow, I'm seeing immediate results from my actions. This is not just theory anymore. I mean, like if they still taught economics or small business or entrepreneurialism or how to take your dream from conception to execution to implementation to success and thriving business, that's what we must teach our children. And if our schools are designed to oppress people or limit them or get them to not believe in themselves or shaming them, the whole woke fiasco, which is just like child abuse. Anyway, if if your school is doing it's failing in its responsibility, then it's your responsibility to make sure your children know their power, their purpose, their potential, and that leadership, that light within them. And so this is what you're bringing out of your children through your own chapter. So get them leading their own chapter, and you can work with them, and I will work with them as much as you or they would like. And I will work with you and your family as much as you and they would like, and let them take a leadership role in guiding the direction of your family chapter even before they are leading their own chapter. You see how critical all of this is? So, I'm looking between talking with you and, more of this is elaborating. We're going deeper than the interview. And I'm also just looking back at my interview to make sure that everything important we're covering here as well. So you're giving your children the ability to create any level of success that they are moved, inspired, determined, persevering in creating. And you're with them in any upsets they have. Like maybe at first, maybe they only post, 4 times or something, and maybe nobody responds. Okay, well, that's okay if you know how many people are reading their messages. Maybe you want to have your children start following more people and getting involved in groups. And I mean, I will work with you to reach everyone in your community if you would like. I'll give you the process I recommend you use to do that. And I can even give you press releases and, I can give you like a story that you can use as a template to contact your local newspaper. Like your children, like let's say your whatever 12-year-old son is leading his own chapter, and So I can give you the press release to contact your local newspaper and to have them do a feature story on your son and showcase his chapter and to get his own meetings. And I mean, I can give you all of this stuff because this is so huge. This is by far the best education you have ever provided to your child, and you're showing your child like how much more meaningful will your child's first car be with your child paying for that? How much more meaningful will your child's education be with your child earning that education through his or her chapter? I mean, all of this is just paramount. This is the education our schools should provide, but this is the education you, as their parent, must provide. And you're doing this together, so it's like they're part of the family. You're making a strong family again. You see how critical this is? So that's just number 5 of our 5 things we must do to end the what's that called now? I got to look back in the notes. It's not the epidemic. Thank you. I remembered that I didn't look back of loneliness among our young people. So, number 4, and how is that inspiring you to step up and be their main mentor, guide, inspiration, leader, role model, and example? You see how this is you becoming the best parent you can be. And by that, you're also becoming the best person you can be. And this is strengthening your family. It's strengthening your children's belief in themselves. They know how much they matter because they're seeing it. They're leading, inspiring, transforming, and liberating all of their friends, if not everyone in your local area or everyone in your state, and they're seeing the impact they are having and they're creating their success. They're seeing the immediate response, the result of cause and effect. I'm putting out this message and people are responding to it, or maybe they're not responding as much this way, but they are this way. And they're learning and adapting and seeing what's working. And this is what life is, because life is feedback to what you are putting out there. What is the image that is in your head and in your children's head? Life will show you based on the results you are putting out there. So, this is paramount in terms of you providing them the education they need, right? So, number 4 is make sure your children are serving a cause they're passionate about. This cause could be your chapter, it might be related to that, and it might be something else. So, ultimately, the epidemic of loneliness comes from loss of community. So, steer your children into healthy community, especially which they are creating. For example, with your chapter, your family chapter, and especially with their own chapter, they can have their own chapter meetings. And this might be, is it like every Saturday at lunchtime in the park or at a pizza place or what? And they can have, eventually they might have 100 people showing up, and or maybe it's like a video conference call, and your children are the facilitators of this and they're moving the meeting along, and maybe you're going through that day's lesson, and then they're bringing everyone into the conversation, or maybe they're doing this in our private wealth alliance. That's what I call it. It's the America Mastermind, actually. And then you're also, or they are also the head consciousness keepers for everyone in their chapter. And anyway, you see they're stepping up and they're becoming that strong leader themselves. And that's showing them that they can create anything they want because they are powerful. They're believing in themselves so much more. And it's off the charts how much confidence they have. And it's not arrogant or ego because they're genuinely passionate about being of service. And this is, they're seeing how much of an impact they're making. This is their contribution to the world, to everyone they are blessed to be able to serve and have connected with them. So notice how the root of community is communion. What does that mean? It means we're all together and we're seeing how we are strong together, and each of us is part of something beautiful. Each of us is a vital part of what we are creating based on the shared vision we all have. How is this inspiring you? What is that cause that your children passionately care about and want to help to improve that certain area? And notice this is also about selfless service. You know how when you care about something beyond yourself, what does that do for you? You feel great, right? Because this is, meaning life is about being of greater service. It's how we are wired. Our happiness is directly correlated with our contribution to the world. So by your children doing something, maybe it's volunteering at a food bank, maybe it's creating their own food bank, maybe it's organizing community fund drives for, what would that be? Children without parents, homeless people, elderly who don't have any family. Maybe you're organizing, or your children are organizing. I was speaking directly to them. I almost forgot that. I mean, I hope your children are watching this with you and they're sharing their ideas, and you're talking about this in communion with your children, and they know instantly what this is, what we have to do together, or what we want to do, or what they're doing on them or their own, and they're leading this. Like maybe they're organizing their school to go into nursing homes and to do, just help, unconditionally love the people in the nursing homes. Tell us about when you were in the Vietnam War, or tell us about what life was like in the 1970s. Tell us about your, when you were in high school, how what were your fears and concerns? Just to get them talking, and you're giving, just by being present with them, with the senior citizens or the people in nursing homes, you're giving them love. So, I mean, how much more do they know they themselves matter, not just your children, the people in the nursing homes? Or, maybe you're walking dogs or petting, whatever it is. Your children probably know immediately what they have to do. This is called karma yoga, and it's a spiritual practice to come into selfless service, which is your source of meaning, fulfillment, purpose. Notice how everything is rooted in connection. This is you reconnecting with life, building community, right? So, how important is all of this? You recognize that, right? So, how are you, or how are they going to strengthen your community? Let's talk about number 3 of the top 5 ways we can end the epidemic of loneliness. So, number 3 is, I lost my place here because when I scroll, the way the word program is set up, it doesn't scroll very efficiently here. Okay, so loneliness is caused by a lack of connection. I want you to see that direct correlation. So encourage your children to be that source of inspiration for others connecting. So here's what I'm suggesting that you do. You, okay, this is the context of this is important. This was maybe, I don't know, let's say about 2 years ago. I was, maybe it was within the last year. I don't remember exactly. But there was a woman, and we're connected on Facebook. She was talking about how I think she grew up in the inner city of Chicago. And I can relate to that sort of because I grew up 100 miles away from Chicago. And anyway, she was saying when she was young, or no, when her kids were young, everyone in the neighborhood kind of kept track of each other. And like if somebody was getting involved with drugs, or they were getting involved with people who were not the best role models, or you're like somebody when after I got in trouble at the at the radio station where I worked with the station manager, I was suspended because I just was doing something silly with a friend of mine, but he took what I did as a joke for him and he gave it to the station manager, just kind of like put it in his mailbox, and I was the one who got busted for that. And somebody said, "You are judged by the company you keep." If you're not keeping the right company, that before the parents in the neighborhood would watch that and they would see that and they would warn you about that. Well, like your son is hanging out with some not the best characters, you might just want to be careful about that. And it's like, oh, thank you. And then, then you talk to your son and then they're kind of like, well, yeah, they kind of know that, but they kind of, what's that called? Like they hedge a little or they sort of, waffle, but then they, because you're establishing boundaries, right? Because people need to know what their boundaries are because that is how they feel loved, right? When they know, well, I guess their parent, does really care and is taking notice of me. So then I feel more safe and secure and loved. That's part of your role as mentor, example, leader, parent, right? Guardian, custodian of them. So, what if you and your children, or you organize or inspire your children to organize what I'm calling reconnecting with life, like their own reconnecting with life groups in their community? This is where, I mean, to me, this is so obvious, and it's actually pathetic of every one of us that we even have to talk about this because this is what's natural. There should be no conversation in any household about how much screen time is allowed on the dumbing device because your children and you shouldn't even want to have any screen time because you're so connected with life. So, what I'm suggesting is that you organize reconnecting with life groups, or your children are organizing these, and you can call it what you want. That's just what more of the description is, except I do sort of like that name, reconnecting with life. And this is where your children they're going to their friends' houses and they're knocking on their doors. They're not texting them. They're not whatever, direct messaging, private messaging, emailing them. They're not even calling. No, they're in person and they're saying, hey, let's play ball. Let's ride bikes. Let's go down to the river, the park. Let's, let's shoot some baskets. Let's play tennis. Let's, whatever it is. Or let's learn martial arts together. Let's learn what like Brazilian martial arts or Mai Tai or I forgot what the name is, MUY, whatever. I don't know. These things, mixed Brazilian martial arts, whatever it's called. Let's, let's spar. Let's, you're getting your kids shouldn't even need to have their dumbing device time limited because they're so engaged with life. That's what a child does. That's obvious, and yet how many families is the dumbing device, that wedge between the parents and the children, between your children and life. And I mean, so remove the dumbing device. You're reconnecting with life. Your children are reconnecting with life. They're reconnecting with their friends. You're getting off the dumbing device and returning to what it means to be a child, what it means to be a human. This is what reconnecting with life is about. So, your children organizing the community. And what's happening? Your community is strong again. Your neighborhood is strong again. Your you know your neighbors again. Maybe you're getting all, or your children are getting all of your neighbors involved in a block party or a barbecue or a fundraiser. This week, we're raising money for, and then your cause. And maybe that's changing and you're doing this every month. And everybody's, or you're just, going to help the neighbors and seeing, is there anything I can do for you? So you're doing karma yoga, you're being of service, right? And maybe 4 kids are going up to this home and they're saying, maybe it's a retired family or something. Is there anything I can do? May I mow your lawn? May I take your trash to the curb? May I wash your car? You're serving, you're getting out and you're reconnecting, and you're doing this as family or as your friends, and you're getting everybody reconnecting with life. You see how imperative that is, and how everyone in the community becomes stronger and more reconnected with life. And notice how all of this that your children are doing is reconnecting them with life. And when they're reconnected with life, there is no thought of loneliness because they're reconnected, they're reparticipating with life. You see how vital all of this is? So let's go to the second of the number 2 of the 5 actions required to end the epidemic of loneliness. And then, talk about all this with your children so they're sharing their input and they're sharing their ideas, and they're like, wow, I'm so excited. I can't wait to get, you know, my friend involved with this, doing this with me. And they're feeling it because this is what's natural for a child and for every one of us. The dumbing device it's actually called adharmic, which means against nature. It's against the family, it's against humanity, it's against America. It's a depleter of life. It's a block. It's a source of disconnection, right? So the number 2 of the 5 ways we're ending loneliness is for your children to reach out to those people who feel unloved or that they don't matter. For example, if they still have schools and meet in schools, I think they still do, then, I know for a while they were trying to make that virtual, which is disconnection. Anyway, for them to go in the lunchroom and say, do you mind if I sit with you? Do you mind if I eat with you? Do you mind if I join you? With maybe the person who sits by themselves because they feel unloved and they feel no one likes them, and get to know them, because every one of us is valuable. Every one of us is or has treasure within us. So get your children to find that treasure within everyone as part of their school. It's part of their reconnecting with life. Okay, so this person who no one seems to think matters or no one likes, Well, you or your children, see, I'm talking directly to your children again, you find out what it is that's great, lovely, beautiful, an inspiration, positive. What's what within them is something that you have an interest in learning about. What hobbies do they have? What experiences have they had? Ask them about those experiences. What are their gifts? What are their passions? What is something that matters greatly to them? Find that bridge with those people, help them see that gift, that light within themselves. You see how much your children are contributing meaningfully to people they don't even know? They're bridging, they're finding that common ground. They're strengthening their reconnection with life by reaching out to people. And notice how fundamentally, I mean, for your children to be able to go up to these people, that requires your children to have that level of belief in themselves, to not, and this is part of you mentoring your children to become strong. And that means what? To be reconnected with their center, with their power. That means they're protected against peer pressure. They're not going to start smoking or drinking or doing drugs because they don't need the approval of other children. So that's making them strong within themselves. This is what's required for them to feel comfortable confidently approaching people who don't have that self esteem or belief in themselves and say, "Would you mind if I eat with you?" That's all it takes. And you see how much good they're doing, contributing meaningfully, personally, in a way that's very reconnective with life and with their school, and what good they are doing to someone else by just showing them kindness, expressing an interest in what matters to them. You see how much that matters to your children? How much they feel good about themselves. They feel good because they're making friends who maybe didn't have any friends. And yet they're seeing the good in others and they're believing in the goodness of every one of us. And then, there's a fundamental truth that says where you give your attention, you are giving your power. That's how you are creating your life and how we are creating our world. So your children are seeing the good in others, and that's what they are experiencing. So that's our second of our 5 ways we're ending loneliness. And what is this inspiring among your children about what is this what's coming to mind for them of other activities they can do to make that much more of a difference to the people in well around them in their school, in their community, in their neighborhood? So the number one way we are ending the epidemic of loneliness is we're all coming together through, well, reconnection with life. And yet, specifically, I lost my place again because of the way Word is scrolling. Trying to apologize for this. I wanted to get Word so I could just scroll, but it's not allowing me to do that in such a way where I can see how many pages I have and everything. So bear with me. The number one thing we're doing is guiding our children. Well, actually, we already talked about that. That's the connecting with life groups in our local communities. Okay, so we already talked about that one. So then let's elaborate on the one that I missed. I'm going to go back here. I apologize for not being able to scroll successfully. If I scroll a little, it just jumps to another place and I lose my place because I have like 8 pages or 10 or something on here. Is that right? I have 10 pages, I think. Yeah, I'm not sharing all of it with you, just one section of this. Okay, so let me see here. So I think number 3 I can elaborate on a little. Yeah, be that source of inspiration for others. And so taking back your neighborhood, that's where I wanted to find myself here. So I apologize for my not being able to maneuver the way Word is responding to me by not letting me just scroll politely here. So you're taking back your community. What if your children don't feel safe like playing in the park? Well, how about if your children, and maybe with you and maybe with the police also, they organize community groups? And you can call this, well, what am I calling it here? I have a suggestion for that. This is the part that I missed before, so I apologize that I went out of order a little here. Okay, so I'm looking in my notes here for this. So I'm like, if your kids are concerned that we've neglected their safety for too long and now it's too late, you can go to your neighbors and say, our children are not safe in their parks or walking alone after school. And you can organize groups in your neighborhood where they're escorting your children or your children are escorting each other. And you're also taking martial arts classes together so they know how to defend themselves. And maybe your children are even becoming firearms instructors. This is why you're working with the police, because you're taking your neighborhood back. That's the bottom line here. Like I forgot where that was and I forgot the exact name of it, but I think they were called angels and they wore, I don't know if it was like red shirts with white letters that said angel or something. And it was some other name to it, but it got a lot of attention. There was like, I don't know if there were chapters in major cities all over. I don't know if they're still around, they might be, but you could create something like this where you're all coming together and you're making sure that your neighborhoods are safe again, or that you're walking together in groups, and maybe that you're even armed legally and safely. And I mean, I hope firearms instruction is part of your family dynamic where you're shooting together and your children know how to fire and to safely maintain their firearms. And I'm not suggesting what's right for that's your business, that's their business, and that's something important for you as a family to talk about together, right? Except if your community is unsafe, then whose responsibility is it to make it safe? It's all of you, right? Everyone in your community. So let your children lead this, or maybe they're doing this as a family and leading this, taking back your community, making your park safe again. And I mean, I realize you're doing this with the police because then they're increasing patrols in your neighborhood and they're themselves feeling safe. This is all common sense stuff, and yet it's required of us as we are taking America back again, taking our world back again. And it's rooted in connection. Notice, because united we stand, divided we fall. We've been divided, we've been disconnected for way too long. Now we are reconnecting with life. So, how does all this feel? what is the first step you are taking and your children are taking? What is really motivating them, inspiring them? They can't wait to get started in doing this. What is that among all of this? Have your children run with this. If you're leading your own chapter as a family, then do that. And I would love to work with you to make the exact income that you are determined to make. Like if you're seeing this and holding this and creating this as a seven-figure business, I will work with you. I would love to work with you until you've created more than $1 million as a result of the leadership that your children are initiating, creating in the impact they're creating in your community, in their school, in your local area, or in your whole state. And if they're determined to personally transform the lives of 10,000 people, well, I would love to give them the map or the guidance about how to do that and give them the press releases they can put out there, give them the interview questions that, they can be on, like like for me, the biggest community, like I live by Sedona, Arizona. Well, Phoenix is like an hour and a half away or so. So I can give them the process to use to contact, like the Good Morning Phoenix type shows, the coffee shows, or, to contact all of the news stations in Phoenix, and then to have, I'm sure they would love to do a, a whole news segment on children are taking action to end the epidemic of loneliness. And they would feature your child as the leader. And so your child can inspire, I don't know, 500,000 other children to step up. And what would that do to, like, Phoenix or all of Arizona, for example, based on the gift, the contribution, the impact your child or your children are having? That's how much they are making a difference. I'm getting chills all over here. Are you feeling this as well? Are they feeling this as well? So, how is this moving them to have greater impact and to step up and be all they are destined to be? And see, how much did you elevate yourself and be that much of a stronger leader, inspiration, and visionary yourself just by introducing this video, watching this video with your children? It's incredible, right? Or watching this or listening to this podcast together. I like to watch things myself. I like to watch videos than listen to audios. So I'm not much of a podcast, like a pure podcast person. I like to watch the video of the podcast. So I like video podcasts, you might say. So that's why I talk about watching. So I would watch this. I wouldn't listen to this because you're missing so much. Because look at how much of the communication is visual and is like feeling the presence. If we could have this conversation in person, even better. I mean, so like by you bringing all of you as the children, bringing all of your friends together, like you get 100 people in a room and you watch this video together and you talk about what we are all doing together. Like this is you bringing all of your friends or 100 people in your community together into your Operation Greatness chapter through operationgreatness.com/leader. And they are seeing, wow, I want to lead my own chapter. And then I could bring in all of my, let's say like your church group, or all of my scouting friends, or all of my, whatever it is, my chess club, my basketball team, my wrestling team, my, you know, whatever your special interest is, my theater group, my choir, my, all of these groups, they would be naturals for your chapter. And you have all of these people connected with you in your groups online as well. Or I don't know if children are allowed to have their own, at what age is it appropriate for children to be on Social media, I don't know, that's a decision for the parents, I guess. But how many people can you, as the child, lead, inspire, transform, and liberate? So, so I've given you the way to transform 10,000 people, maybe a million people. Where are you taking this yourself? You're reconnecting with life yourself, and you're bringing others into reconnecting with life. You're ending the epidemic of loneliness. Where else are you taking this? Where are you taking this from here? This is a blank question for you to answer yourself and to talk about this with your chapter, to lead the conversation, because everyone hearing these questions, everyone you are leading, inspiring, transforming, and liberating through their own chapters, they're answering these questions and they're seeing what the next step is for them to do. You see how even just this video is transforming the whole world. We're coming back together as the human family. We are all brothers and sisters, and we're coming back and reconnecting with life, rooted in love, rooted in the belief in how much we matter, in shining our light, because we all have important gifts within us so that we're now sharing. We're shining brightly as the sun. We're not holding back. We're not limiting ourselves. We're not obstructing what we want in life. We're no longer living in fear. We are instead reconnecting with life, with each other, with our purpose, with our center, with our power, with God, with our families, with our neighbors, with our community. What was the impact of this Operation Greatness, Year of Greatness podcast or show or chapter meeting? I want you to compile the meaning of this for you and your inspiration, your excitement, your reconnection with life into the essay you are sending me at dan@danclatt.com. And I want everyone watching this to go back to the beginning of this show, episode, podcast, video, chapter meeting. Watch it from the beginning. Talk about the points in here on your social media, and in your posts, link back to this video. Best if you're doing this through your chapter link, because then everyone watching this is joining your chapter, if not as well leading their own. This is how you are leading, inspiring, transforming, and liberating everyone you are blessed to be able to serve. This is how you are that greatest contribution anyone has ever made in their whole lives. That's the gift of you. See that, know that, feel that, own that. Any questions about any of this? Really hear that message. You are contributing more meaningfully to everyone joining your chapter and leading their own than anyone else has ever contributed in their whole lives, because you're empowering them with the ability to become as wealthy, happy, joyful, purposeful as they desire. You're giving them the power to create any level of success, happiness, joy, fulfillment, well being, peace of mind, prosperity, meaning, impact, and contribution they desire. You're giving them the power to live their best lives, honoring and fulfilling their divine design, duty, destiny, dharma, and you deserve to be well rewarded for that, which you are, leading your own chapter through operationgreatness.com/leader and giving them the power to become financially free as well as your greatest contribution to the world. Let me know how this is moving you. Write down your essay. Share all the posts that you're making in the essay you're sending me, dan@danclatt.com. Lead your chapter, operationgreatness.com/leader. Which of these 5 activities or actions are you taking first? What result are you creating? This is what you're giving your attention, and you're empowering that with strong feelings. That is what you are creating. The result is just the effect you, as prime cause, have created. Answer this question. Talk about all this with your group, your family, your chapter. Share your thoughts in our private Wealth Alliance. The America Mastermind is actually what it's officially called. We are all here in this together, serving and supporting each other and having the greatest impact. It is our destiny, our gift, our blessing, our responsibility, our duty to have with your chapter, becoming everything that it is your gift, blessing, duty to be. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. I believe in you. I know you are destined to do great things, so go out there and do me proud. Thank you very much.